welcome to the Open Mic Comedy Podcast. I'm your host, Marc. If this is your first time here, welcome. If you're a returning listener, welcome back. This podcast is here for everybody on the open mic comedy circuit, whether you're a comedian, an MC, a promoter, or a tutor. Hey, even comedy fans who enjoy watching the stars of the future in those dingy pub basements we seem to inhabit a lot. If you're thinking I could do that, then this podcast will guide you on what to expect on this crazy circuit right in the centre of it. Today's guest is someone who's got a bit of a backstory. We're going to learn a lot about this person today. They've described themselves as having some fantastic beasts, as well as being in a fantastic beast or two. If anyone's a Star Wars geek, you may recognise her. It's Miss Maja Bloom. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Let's start off with comedy first then.
Yes.
That's where we've met. That's where most people who listen to this will have seen you perform.
Mm-hmm.
So comedy, how's that come about for you?
So it's fairly new for me. So it's been sort of a year properly. I've always wanted to do it. I've always loved comedy a lot, comedy in all forms, I would say. And then all my friends used to say, you have to do stand-up, you have to do stand-up. And I kind of tried once or twice, literally just one here, one there. And then I was in a play at Edinburgh Fringe last year. It was a comedy improvisation sort of play. We had, I think, 8 different endings, depending on what the audience requested. And during the Fringe, which was an experience, that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Traumatic at times. Most times. For anyone autistic, I think it is traumatic at times. And then I did I think 3 open spots. And when I came back and recovered, I think 2 days in bed after 3 weeks at the Fringe, I said, okay, let's just try this thing. And sort of that's when I decided let's do it properly.
So you did open spots without ever having done proper stand-up.
So I did literally, I think I did one in 2020, I think 2019, just before I'm traveling, literally just one at Comedy Virgins, which I now know. I just did just literally one, boom. Then completely forgot about this because my self-doubt and imposter syndrome is like, no, don't do it. It's shit, you shit, you shit. So I'm one of those people I'll never forget. So Ramesh Ranganathan, who I'm sure everybody knows, he said in another podcast, he said, the world is divided into 2 groups. There are people who wake up and they look in the mirror and the person in the mirror says, you shit or not. And if you're number 1, you will completely understand. And if you're number 2, you will not. So I'm unfortunately in group number 1. So I did it once and then it was like, you shit, you shouldn't do it. Procrastination, self-doubt. Then I did I was invited because of my supposed fame to do a course, which was just mainly trying it out. And then again, I did one. Then again, no, you shit, stop doing this, which I get after every gig. Not the one yesterday, actually. The one yesterday went really well, actually. So, anyway. But, and then the Fringe, sort of happened and I did 3 sort of, I think, or 4 open slots. There are not many actually during the Fringe, but I was in a play, so every day we had this play, which was acting and improvisation, and so a bit of comedy but different, obviously. And then when I came back and having watched a lot of shows there at the Fringe, I thought, okay, let's try it. So this has been since sort of September last year, properly kind of trying doing it. I met Imran Hafez, who is in Square Go Comedy. We sort of run shows every now and then. So I met Imran there. He's Scottish Pakistani, so he was there as well. He actually came to our shows. Yes, I think. Hello, Imran. So I would say that's sort of I had always wanted to try it. I had always been told you should try it, but then kind of properly deciding let's sort of give it a try was last August.
You were saying when you started you were having the doubts of I'm shit, it's not really working. When you did it in September then, or September last year, where did those doubts go?
They're still there. Hello. I don't know why actually. I keep doing it. So you obviously have better shows and you think, let's try it. It's fun, obviously. When it goes well, it's great, and you kind of get into a routine. And also, another comedian told me that apparently someone famous said, "Do 100 gigs and then see how you feel about it." So I haven't done 100 yet. I think I've done about 55, and now I'm sort of experimenting something new. And I've just done my full proper solo show at Faversham Fringe, Foot Putter, and that was it was a great learning experience because it's sort of it's a bit of a different beast. But doing that made me think about what I want to do with comedy, whether you go down the route of sort of personal story with jokes sort of thing, which what Foot Putter is, or you just do jokes like Netflix special, or you can kind of do both. But so I'd say doubts are still there, very much so in my head. But I think, I just keep doing it. One day maybe, I'll stop. Also, thanks to my lovely boyfriend with whom I share rent and stuff. I think that he enabled that. And also being, paid for acting, obviously, as a freelancer, you sort of like do things and then you say, well, I have some free time, so let's do it. And also, I think I am invited I still have a few gigs in October. And this might sound funny, but it's absolutely true. Once I had this job that I absolutely hated. Absolutely. And I remember I very vividly remember it. And I was so poor. I had this box room, just a bed and a desk underneath and wardrobe outside. And I remember waking up one day thinking, I just don't want to go on, but I have a job, so I have to get up and go and do it. Do you know what I mean? It just keeps, and the same way, well, I have these shows, so I have to show up. You sort of like, you have them. So I have one tomorrow. So you just like, well, they invited you, they want you there. And it's sort of a sign of respect.
I think a lot of us may go through doubts and stuff about how good you are and stuff. And sometimes I've been there at a gig and you're there at half and you're in the second half and you're thinking everybody else is doing really, really well. And I'm not sure I'm anywhere near that standard. And there's a couple of times I've never quite done it. I've always contemplated going up to the MC and just saying, just don't put me on today.
Yeah.
It's not in my head. But I've always gone, no, you're here, you've spent the money, you've made the effort, do it. What's the worst that's going to happen?
Yeah. But I have these moments here, just walk out. I mean, my show, Foot Putter at Faversham Fringe, until 10 minutes before the show, I was absolutely sure it wouldn't happen. And I was kind of happy with it because, so no one bought the ticket line. It turns out someone did. And my boyfriend was there and I was chatting to him. And then 10 minutes before, the sort of one of the organizers said, there are people waiting for your show. I was like, fuck. And then I did the show and I'm so embarrassed. The people who watch the show, if one day I'm super famous and they came to my show, I was like, I'm so sorry. How much do you want me to pay you so you tell no one what happened? Okay. just give me the number. Okay. And then we sign an NDA and, because it was just rushed because I kept thinking exactly, they just bored. They want you to die. Just finish now. This is literally what my head says.
Yeah.
So the self-doubt and the Ramesh Ranganathan story, I think, but they were actually really nice and lovely. Yeah, I guess this sort of self-doubt and this thing like, let's just walk out and, it still happens. And then you think, okay, this other angel devil kind of thing, this other person says, just stay and do your bit. And maybe, and that's kind of what the show was about. Maybe you being the way you are, makes sense. So the whole idea of Foot Putter was that, maybe being a foot putter and weird between 2 or 3 cultures, which is what I am, and being multilingual and sort of maybe somewhere I belong, even though I just permanently stick out like a sorest thumb ever and I never fit in. It's just, so the whole show is kind of about, but so I'm trying to convince myself with my own show.
Yeah. What has been so far then? Can you recall what your best and worst moments on stage?
Okay, so best was probably one of the best. Whenever it works, yesterday was a really good show and it was a tiny thing, one of those comedians trying out new jokes, but I've tried it. I tried a new sort of arrangement of my set and it works really well. Whenever it works and people laugh and people get what you're trying to do is always great. So I had one of my very first shows actually was last year in September. I was invited to this beautiful club in Bristol. It was my officially first paid show, People's Comedy, which is fantastic. Everybody should go there in Southwest. It's just absolutely fantastic, run by the incredible Henry, who is just amazing. We love you, Henry. If there's ever like a community award nomination scheme going on, I want to nominate Henry. So packed room and there were professional comedians and I was just so shaking and scared, but it actually went really well and people just really loved the jokes and it was just so beautiful. And one of the worst was actually also in Bristol, funny enough. What happened was that there was a problem with the equipment and the sound and lights were particularly that there was an issue. Apparently we were told later on that rats chew through the cables, which I think is just great. This is absolutely
Brilliant.
true. And I think it's just like Russ were like, fuck that comedy, we will rock, okay, fuckers. Like, seriously, you know. And I was in the first half. They fixed it afterwards. And so there's a comedian before me. It was even tougher for him. And then my set happened, and it felt like being in a sound bubble. I had no idea what was happening. I had no idea whether anyone could hear anything I was saying. I was super well prepared, and my whole set disintegrated. I was like, I remember physically feeling just like I'm out of it. Like, I don't know what's happening, where I am, because the lights were just blinking. For me, the worst wasn't even the audience. And it's always the case. For me, there were other comedians that I already know by now, so they kind of knew that I can do really well. And for me, that is always most embarrassing, because the audience, I have a feeling the audience will, just like my boyfriend said to me, that a lot of people in the audience are like, I'm so impressed that you do this. This is stuff we would never do it. So I think they always give you some kind of grace. But having people that I know and that I know are good and that think that you should be good, for me, I always feel like they're just judging there. And so it was so painful that I left the room. I remember thinking, I'm just going to start crying. And then luckily another comedian came out who was after me, who actually said on stage, what's going on with the sound and the lights? And he just said, do you want a pint? And Scottish comedian, I should remember his name now. I'm really sorry that I don't. And so that was kind of the worst. Yeah, I think bombing in front of your friends, for me, that is actually much worse than sort of when the audience doesn't react in a way. And it sounds crazy, because you would say, well, comedians are nice, but I have this, and this is potentially, you know, related to my autism. I have this idea that everybody's just judging you. And so, yeah, people who I just remember feeling really distressed by that.
Yeah, I can imagine. You do rely on the people that are around you to help you through those times as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you've had it. You walk away from a gig and just said to your friend, it just didn't go well. And they're like, no, it's all right. And you're like, but I didn't, like, I missed that bit and I missed that. And they're like, nobody's got your script.
Exactly. And it's always worse in your head than in their head, you know? So it's always, we always sort of, we're such harsh critics of, you know, coming back to that person who always tells you that you shit, you know, it's just, So
it's tough. It's tough doing it. It is probably one of the hardest things, I think, because it's one of those things, like you say, when you say to somebody, oh yeah, I do stand-up comedy, they're like, what?
Yeah,
I couldn't do that. That's really brave. And you're just like,
a lot of through that. Exactly. A lot of actor friends, whenever I do an acting sort of event or workshop, a lot of people are like, we would never do that. So you're one of those weird creatures that do both acting and stand-up. And they usually think, well, you can't be good at both, can you? They give you, some of them, you know, the good ones are like, you can't be good at both. And someone like, wow, fuck me, you're dangerous, because you could be famous in both. Maybe I'll be nice to you now.
So with you being on the circuit for a relatively short amount of time, can you remember the first ever joke you ever told on stage?
So I've been gigging with my jazz band for a while, and then after a while...
sorry, that's one other thing that we should know, is that Maja's a bit of a jazz singer as well.
I am a jazz singer, I kind of, a lot of comedians don't know this, like, oh my God, you sing, you should do songs on stage. I'm like, I'm planning to, so, and a songwriter, but so unfortunately lockdown kind of killed a lot of it. So I used to have shows, I would say April to October, it was just show every weekend, weddings usually, and I still, you know, perform with my jazz band. I've been playing with a few pianists and bassists for, 10 years plus probably. So when I kind of started sort of just maybe telling jokes, I probably would add one or two on stage. So maybe then, and it's always been my filler strategy. People ask me why I started doing acting, and I think it is a form of masking. And I remember talking to a fellow autistic actor / comedian, and he said, yes, it's sort of like this sort of jester persona that you have for society. And that's always been my social strategy, to be a jester. So probably when I was a teen, actually, because I used to go to these summer camps, and I realized that the way to blend in was just to be the funny one. So maybe then I just have to add one story. So because it is funny, sorry. There's a very famous jazz club, I will not name it. It doesn't have a great reputation in terms of treating musicians well. So people pay up to 25 quid, I think, to enter. And as a celebrity that is linked to that place, always be packed. And it's like right in the center of Soho. And so my band, they knew that I can do jokes. So when they were changing from song to song, you always have like 1 minute in jazz numbers. You do a number, you do a solo, you have 5-piece, you know, a sax solo. And people just, you know, it's literally 1 minute. And I would say a joke. And I mean, I know that people loved it because people would laugh, and you had these international, you had the international sort of crowd. So they would, when I said, "Oh, where you from?" And then until one day, apparently the management told us not to tell jokes because apparently, quote, the people didn't like it. And I thought, yeah, right.
Yeah.
And I think that's when I said I'm not performing there anymore because I think it's just a lot of BS.
Yeah,
anyway,
you're there to entertain.
Yeah. And that because everybody's sense of humor is different, but when people like that, you just know as a performer, when you're there on stage, whether you're a jazz singer or an actor or an MC, when people like it. You just know. That's just something that you either, when you flop, when you bomb, and when.
Yep.
So I knew that, and it was working because you had 30-second, 60-second break between the numbers when it was just quiet on stage, and apparently it was just a jazz clap, and I was just there to look pretty and sing jazz.
Dear. You did touch on it a few times already, is the solo show. So how have you found going from like the traditional 5-minute spots to how long is Foot Putter as a show? Is it half an hour, an hour?
So no, I thought it was just one performance. I'm thinking of taking to Edinburgh. That was the whole point. So I want to do a few work in progress in London for people to please come and just give me feedback. So for me, it was actually much easier. I wrote the show in about 2 days because for me, 5 minutes are difficult, whereas say jokes for 45, 50 minutes, not a problem. And all comedians are like, what? So I guess, again, there are two kind of types of shows or comedy. So, and I've seen at Edinburgh Fringe, I've seen both. You can do, I hope I do not mispronounce his name because I've only just discovered him, Anthony Jeselnik, I think. You can do a kind of a Netflix special, joke. And it's sort of like just pure comedy, nothing to do with who you are. And it's just pure comedy. And it's great. I think he's amazing. So one of my, I think now, I've just only discovered him, I know, late. And I was like, oh, I like that. And this is kind of one style of comedy that I want to explore. And then you can do a show which is kind of a personal story, and there are jokes in between, and you sort of there's a point in a story. So that's what Foot Putter is. And I'm now debating whether I keep it as it is, and I think it's great. So it was fairly easy for me because I always struggled with 5 minutes. I have jokes and stories for 3 hours if you ask me. So that was just like limited. And even though in the end, again, I will pay you to those people who came to my show, how much you want, please tell me, just send the number. Because I shortened it because I kept thinking, oh, they're bored. It was like 45, 50 minutes. And if I plan to possibly add my own songs in between.
Yeah.
So me playing the keyboard and just performing 3 songs. So then I'm like, oh my God, she can sing and play the piano as well. Oh my God, wow. Just tick, 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 boom. I should just bring a horse because I can horse ride as well. I can, yes. Does anybody have a horse in Edinburgh? I'm just saying, okay. So I would say it's about an hour. So for me, that was actually super easy. But it's not a 1 hour of joke. That is completely different. That's what I'm kind of learning and exploring right now. So if you see that sort of division.
Yeah.
So, but if we talk about a show where you have jokes and stories and it all there's a point to it and there's kind of a message in a way, that was fairly easy for me actually, because I've always found this 5-minute form limiting. And that's because I guess, and it makes perfect sense, you won't just joke when you have 5-minute slots, So, and that was my mistake, I guess, for the past year, which I've only just discovered. Ta-da, eureka.
Yeah, I've always found personally, I've done a few 7s and quite a few 10s, and I've always found the 10s have gone better than anything else because I feel like I'm not rushing into it.
Exactly.
I feel more relaxed.
Exactly.
If you don't get a laugh for the first minute of a 5, your brain just goes, I've got 4 minutes of this.
Exactly. And you're just like, so stressed. Whereas you can actually just take in the audience. You can maybe make a joke with the audience. And that's actually great. You sort of like warm them up and you say hello. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you have these 5, you just like, and as you know, some venues, and I'm not going to name names or, it's not even shaming them, but some venues are like, and you're just like, and because of this, you actually fuck up the jokes because your jokes might be good, but you just like,
yes.
And that was always my mistake. I've actually realized while writing Foot Putter that it's just 2 things. You can do joke. Anthony Giselle, I'm going to quote him, kind of like boom, boom, boom. Or you do a solo show, which is about something with jokes in it.
Yeah.
And so I want to kind of explore two routes there, but they're different. And there are comedians who just do joke, and it's perfectly fine. It's great. They're amazing. So Rosemary Gomez, she's amazing. I mean, I've seen her doing 3 different 5-minute sets, and I was like, oh, so good. Why are you so good, Rosemary? Why are you so good? Why are you so good? And there are comedians who just do this. So, and she was like, oh, how are you going to do 45-minute show? Because you're thinking, are you going to write 45 minutes of boom, 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 boom? And it was a different type of show. So that was kind of easy. I hope that answers your question. Sorry, that was a very long
it does.
answer.
I do think the 5 minutes is, as we said, can be quite constraining, but it's good because it gives you the exposure. If there are only ever 10 minutes out there, it'd be so much harder for people to get on, because especially the London circuit is saturated with people that want to trying this. As a thing I think I've learned over the last few months really is that I think a lot of comedians is when they put their 5 minutes out, they try to time it to around 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But if something else happens on the night and you're then behind,
Yeah.
you're either playing catch up, so you're trying to speed through your jokes, or you get to the end and you speed through, and like you say, you mess up the end joke, which was the whole thing you were aiming for at the end. It's not a bad thing to have a 4-minute set.
Yeah.
And then you will always get to the end.
Exactly. And I've only just sort of learned it now. Again, for me, in my head at least, because it's stupid because you don't need an order, but in my head, I need an order. And I've learned this again at the very start, because you think, oh, you need from A to B. No, there are comedians who go like A, Z, but as long as it's funny, no one cares really. You could just say, and now a segue, and people laugh, and it doesn't really matter. In my head, I had this like, you need an order. And then I realized, well, you don't. It's just in my head I need it. And so in my head, I had this division. And now I know it, I think. You can kind of plan for 4-minute joke, or you can do a work in progress, and then you tell people this is kind of a personal journey sort of show with jokes. And for me, that works. But exactly, I think it's great. And you should always plan for a little bit less, because there are delays or things happen, or you can have a heckler, the light's not working. My mistake was just, you think, oh, boom, you're prepared. And then, the lights might not be working. It wasn't the venue's fault. Things happen. There's a sound issue. Or for me, again, very bright lights. So I had another show and it was just so painful. And, you have to kind of learn to deal with it rather than just try to ignore it and then suffer. And then your jokes suffer because you're just physically in pain. I mean, for me, lights are that's one thing that I just struggle with a lot. So I completely agree. So I think, and they're there for a reason. And also because, a lot of people just come and they want joke. And, they just want this kind of thing. So, and it gives so many people a chance.
It's going to be very reminiscent if we don't talk about film here, even though this is a comedy podcast. Being part of the film industry must give you something to bring to the comedy circuit. So do you want to give us a little run through of stuff you've been in? Because I know you reference it in your set, and you've mentioned to me that some people are like, they're not sure if they believe you or not.
I know. So I've noticed. So I think now in 2024, we are so used to people, comedians, saying things that are not true, and it's perfectly fine. That when I mentioned, for example, that I'm autistic, so it happened to me. I did a show when I specifically talked about being autistic, and there was a lady who came to me after a show, and it's absolutely lovely. It's nothing bad about her, and she said, I just wanted to ask, because my son's autistic. Are you actually autistic? And I thought. And I had another autistic comedian. So again, people are so used to it. You just use it as it's just a device, right? So people ask me, what you do, and I'm thinking, well, I've just said on stage that I'm an actor and I'm in Fantastic Beasts. Obviously, they assume this is just a joke. So I would say Fantastic Beasts. Obviously, that's kind of the most famous one that with a huge fan base. So it's still there, and I'm still invited to events to meet the fans, and they're absolutely amazing. I always say we have the best fans in the world. We do, honestly. Fans are just incredible of the whole sort of franchise, the whole world, magical world. So Star Wars, it's funny you mention it, because I've never actually written specifically material about it, but maybe I should. I am in Star Wars, one of the Star Wars. I used to find it funny because I wasn't sort of a Star Wars sort of fan, so it was just a job, and it wasn't a particularly fun job in terms of, it wasn't through my current agent. It was this sort of really horrible extras agency. We were gathered as a group of weirdly looking people. It was such a beautiful group of people. I mean, everybody was just unique in their own way. We were all aliens in this very, very important scene. We had Annie Leibovitz, I think I pronounced it. Gosh, I suddenly feel like I I cannot speak English. And she took a picture of all of us for Vanity Fair. It was just insane. The world of, everybody was just unique in their own way.
Yeah.
But the agency and the whole process of filming, I remember it was very hot. We had helicopters trying to snap a picture. So we were told you have to come out with a cloak or with an umbrella. You cannot, and at one point, because it was so hot, JJ Abrams said, okay, let's get everyone an ice cream, because we were just boiling inside and we couldn't come out. So the whole process was quite unpleasant, actually. But yes, I am in Star Wars. And then there's a lovely movie, Final Portrait, where I am a French prostitute, appropriately. I talk about it, this time French. I mean, come on, like, a bit diverse, not just an Eastern European prostitute. And I think I'm like, now people will Google this, but I'm not entirely dressed. But I always say, when I had dates, because now I have a lovely boyfriend, but I would always, when you met like a really kind of creepy, weird guy, and I would just always, oh, your nude pictures. I was like, I'm nude online. You have to just find it, and you could see that. And I was like, yeah, good luck with that. Good luck with that. I have nothing to hide. But that was really lovely, because I met Geoffrey Rush, Oscar-winning actor, and he then came to my show. He actually is a fan of, I'm so proud, I should show off more. He's a fan of one of my original songs, and he came when he was, I think his daughter was still studying in London, and he just said, just tell me when you have a show. And it was a tiny, tiny show. And I played one of my original songs, and he said to me, now I heard the song, my life is complete. It was very kind of him. So he heard the song online and he said, I want to hear the song live. And he's a pianist, so it's a huge compliment, because I'm not a pianist. I just pretend to play the piano because I couldn't afford a pianist. So absolutely true. So Final Portrait, a few short things. Zomboat, again, I play a zombie, prostitute zombie. I mean, potato. That's what I'm good for. I'm finally trying to embrace it, So probably a few projects, lots of different ones, loads actually, short things. These are probably the biggest ones. One TV series in America, well, for American market, and it was really fun experience. But I now mention it in my longer set, and I hope they do not hate me for saying that. Crime sort of police sort of TV series for American market. Yeah,
that's honestly, anybody that's seen you that doesn't know this, his head has probably just fallen off.
Oh,
we meet each other in a pub basement or a whatever, and just see him for 5 minutes.
Yeah, pub basement.
See each other for 5 minutes, have a chat, how things are going, and you never really get into somebody's backstory. In that, you rarely ask that. What do you do for a living? Oh, I'm an actor. Oh, whatever. But for me, it's like, what do you do for a living? I work in IT. Boring. Next topic. We're done. There's nothing interesting. But when I meet people like you, and it's just like, when you were doing the set, I think you did the set with the Fantastic Beasts. I'm like, hold on a second. I'm not expecting this.
Okay. and it
does.
Yeah. Okay.
It does go through your mind thinking, is this part of do I just look like the character that I'm that I'm saying who I look like?
Yeah.
I'm not actually that character. And you're like, no, she's that. Oh, wow. Yeah. And you're just like, okay.
I hope, because of me doing the third, if there is Fantastic Beasts 4, all the fans are asking me if there's going to be Fantastic Beasts 4, which I hope there will be, because it's such a fun job. I did 2 and 3, and technically there were meant to be 4 and 5, but now you have obviously the TV series for all the Harry Potter geeks there. But if there is, I hope I will still be employed despite doing the set, about saying that it's not about my boobs, the Fantastic Beasts stuff. But yeah, I really hope so. But it was just kind of spontaneous. I did a joke about this, and then it sort of became part of my set. But yes, it does happen. You're right that comedians kind of assume that it's just a joke, and again, me probably being autistic, I'm like, well, I wouldn't lie about this because I can't lie. Yeah. So but one day I'm going to learn to lie. Watch out, people. Yeah.
But everybody will believe it. Nobody will believe it's a lie.
Yeah, exactly. By then, it's like the story, about the boy who cried wolf.
Yep. So has film actually, other than like the topics, the things you learn in the film industry, has that influenced how you act as a stand-up stage? That was a deep question.
Yeah, funny enough, it probably should, because I remember one comedian, a really good one, saying, "Oh, it must be easy for you because you're an actor." And I guess it is, because you're so used to. I mean, not all actors are used to improvising. I think the improvising muscle trained a bit more. Yeah. Because of so many maybe actors workshops. Again, there are actors who don't do improvisation at all. Honestly, what is happening to my English? Have I just had a stroke? I hit my head last week, and I keep telling my boyfriend, I think I'm having a minor stroke. He's like, no, you're fine. I'm like, I'm not. Are you sure that? Are you sure? Because I think maybe a little, you know. So if I smell burnt toast, we're calling 999. So maybe I should probably, because I would say no, but probably it does. I mean, just doing things on stage, like performing with my jazz band, is probably closer to stand-up, because acting, if we talk about film acting, you have a script, you prepare, and usually you have to do what they told you to do. So it's kind of very contained. And also film, people don't know this, but and for me it's so obvious, but film work, 90, and someone famous said, I think 90% is waiting, and then maybe 5% is acting. So you get to set at 4 a.m, you get makeup, costume, breakfast at about 5 a.m, and then they have to set it up, and then you might act for about 3 minutes before they call cut, and then you repeat this about 700 times from all different angles. So I would say being on stage with my jazz band probably was a bit more of a prep, but at the same time I think it must have helped me in ways. I should probably use it more. This podcast is great for actually inspiring me to write better jokes. Thank you very much, Marc.
With the acting, the music, and stand-up, if you could only pick one.
Stop that.
Now, forget money. Money doesn't come into it. This is purely about enjoyment, fulfillment, and stuff.
I'd love to sing and do comedy, sort of, you know, songs and sort of like in a comedy TV series. So all three together. So you have, I love, I mean, music has always been my first love, and it always will be. And it's a shame I do it least, kind of, because of the way it is. I started all of this far too late. I've recently discovered, I didn't genuinely know that Liam Payne, bless his heart, who tragically passed away recently, he started because he sang Fly Me to the Moon. And I thought, excuse me, I sang Fly Me to the Moon so many times. No one offered me £1 million contract, Simon. Hello. Because I wasn't a teenage boy. I was 30 when I started all of this. And that was the problem. So nothing to Liam Payne's talent. But the problem is when you start late, you know, you can have talent and then it's just late. And I allowed myself to kind of try to do what I love very, very late because of different reasons. So I would say I love music, and I'd love to do music in something funny and maybe a TV series. So all of them three together. So to give you an example, though, you know, famous TV series Grey's Anatomy, and one of the actors, I think she's not, well, I haven't watched it for years, but I used to watch it. One of the main actors, I think after being on the series for about 5 or 6 years, they did an episode where every actor, well, who could sing, they sang, and everybody was like, oh my God, and she's been a singer all her life. And then there's one episode and everybody's like, oh, she's an amazing, accomplished singer. She had been on the TV series acting for 5 years, and that paid her bills, and that's normal. And so so many of my comedian friends say, oh my God, you're a singer. And to me, it's like, well, yes, but people don't know that. So I would love to, singing, of course, it would be great to actually be able to sing, and if it could be funny. So all three together, I would say. That would be great.
Not going to pick just one. Well, I think we've got it from the music is the first passion.
Probably, yes. And then comedy now, I guess. It doesn't mean that I don't like drama, but I'm exploring comedy, and I love things when they are funny. And I think comedy is so important that I probably music comedy would be two first. And then, but all together. It doesn't mean to all casting directors listening to this podcast, I do like acting.
No, I really enjoy musical comedy. That's probably one of my most favourite genres. I can't play a thing. I can't sing. I don't have timing. I'm one of these people, you know, when you see an old man at a concert and they do the clap, everyone claps in sequence. And there's always one person that's out of sequence, or when they're putting their hands left and right. I'm that one guy. I'm completely out of it. It's just gone. I was actually going to write a bit about stand-up in that. I just can't. I can't clap in time. I can't do it. I don't know why.
Well, I used to clap wrongly. You know, I don't know if you know, in jazz, it's 2 and 4, not 1 and 3. And I learned it the hard way. All my jazz musicians were like, and they give you those looks like, oh, she's clapping 1 and 3, the pop way. What a peasant. What a peasant. I mean, you know, because jazz is 2 and 4, 2 and 4. Yeah. Remember, people, if you ever go to a jazz show and you clap 1 and 3, they will kick you out. They were just like... all my jazz musicians, until I told them, guys, who booked you for the show? Who's paying you? Shut the fuck up, okay?
Yeah. Don't mess with me. So your time on in the open mic circuit has been, so That was September last year. So
Yeah.
obviously podcasts are timeless. So we're about just over a year in properly.
Yeah.
In your time on the circuit, what would you say are the best and worst things about the circuit?
Okay, so I mean, I would say it's the same in showbiz. So in terms of acting, I used to say, this is horrible, I would never date an actor, because there are people, I think, who go into this business, all sides of this business. So now we have reality TV and any side of the business. There are people who go into this wanting fame, who are slightly narcissistic. There are lovely people as well, and there are lovely male actors. You know, I didn't mean anything like bad about my colleagues. But there are people, yeah, and they would always kind of push through. And I'll never forget, and I learned this really late, and I wish I had learned it earlier. Someone told me if a director has a confident actor and a talented actor, they will choose the confident one. And it's the same in comedy. And I was just telling a friend comedian last night about this, that I'm trying to learn there. You can say a decent joke, but not the best joke, in a very confident way, and people will just like, wow. Or even a mediocre joke, and people be like, wow. But you say an amazing joke and you rush it, or you're not confident, and people will not get it. And it's the same in showbiz. You meet people who are genuinely talented, but they struggle with self-doubt, with imposter syndrome, and unfortunately they will not be picked, because if someone comes and says, hey, I'm fucking amazing, you fucking take me, they will be cast, and after 3 movies they will actually learn how to act. And there are some celebrities I could mention, but I will not. And I met some of them when they were very, very young. They were a bit dickheadish, but now they're not. And maybe they were really bad actors, but no one cares because they're really famous and they've learned. So this is difficult to change, because I think it's just the way there's reality, you know. And there's a great book, I think, about celebrity by Greg Jenner, who's a wonderful historian and author of another podcast called You're Dead to Me, which saved me through lockdown. And I just want to say, Greg, I've been following you on Twitter for many years. Can I be on the podcast? Thank you. So he wrote a book about fame. We think that fame and celebrity is a new thing. It's not. And I think so that's always existed in this kind of, you know, show area, where there are people who just go into it because they want to be famous, or they have some sort of narcissistic side to them. And so that, you know, and it's the same in comedy. I've learned there are people who will be nice to you because they want to use you, or be horrible to you because they don't know who you are once they discover who you are. I mean, it happened to me. I had actors friends like just literally dismiss me, and they're like, oh, you were in Fantastic Beasts, so who was your, you know, who's your agent? I was like, go and fuck you, you know, just leave me now. But I'm sure it happens to anyone. So that side of, you know, this sort of, it's difficult to change. I think it's always going to be part of that kind of area. I don't know what to really call it, you know, but this kind of hypocrisy, or just, it's changing, I think, slowly, in a sense that we have to be more accountable. So being horrible, it's going to come out sooner or later. So people try to be nice. Whether they're nice or not, it's a different thing. But, you know, everybody has a bad day, but you have to. So I think it's changing, especially for women. I mean, you know, talk about Russell Brand and things like this. I remember actually when I started comedy last year, this is before Russell Brand thing sort of, you know, exploded. I was warned about him by another female comedian, sort of semi-directly. And there are people that we are warned about in terms of predator behavior. So I think it's changing. All these, you know, people just being horrible to each other. But that's just human nature. I mean, I'm sure it's in every job. When I worked in finance, you know, I used to work in, you know, full-time sort of, you know, sales and business analyst role. In every job, you have people who are horrible. And, you know, so that's difficult to kind of change. But I think that's, and maybe it's difficult in showbiz, because when you, I don't know, work in IT, you can say, well, you know, there's someone is horrible, someone is nice, right? Oh, it's, you know, but that's normal, that's life. But you have this naive idea that, oh, everybody's nice because they're there to entertain, right? So everybody's going to be nice. And there's this kind of veneer of like, we're all nice because we're all there, we're all talented, we just do what we love, and it's our passion. So you have this, and just like in any other job, you will have people who are, you know, nasty and horrible, or people have their bad days, right? Or, you know, people who are genuinely lovely. So I think with showbiz, you have this kind of, they say never meet your heroes, because you have this idea that everybody will be nice, right? Just like in any other job, not everyone is, or so that is, when you say, would I change it? Yes, I think it is slowly changing. Sexism as well. The fact that so many lineups, it's like one nominal woman there, or non-binary person. There are non-binary people as well. And we're still a minority. So apparently we have to, I'm only sort of learning this world and exploring it, but apparently we have to be 20 times funnier than a man, because there are so many men. And it's true. I've been to shows where you see this guy and you think, thank you. I've never had a joke about masturbation. It's just so wonderful. Thank you so much. Wow. But then a woman gets on stage and she has to be so original, and boom. And there are women are so sharp. There are so many female comedians. I'm like, oh my God, it's so great. And they will still not get the acclaim that, a male comedian would. I don't know. It would be nice if there was some kind of payment to it sometimes, but it's a very vague answer. I'm really sorry.
It's a tough one.
Hey, sorry for the interruption. Duncan Hart here from episode 37. If you're enjoying this podcast, give it a like, a 5-star rating, and a follow on whatever app you're using right now. Marc will be forever grateful. Now, back to this cracking episode.
You mentioned as well about you've been helping out Imran with Square Go and stuff like that.
Yes.
So how have you've seen it kind of from both sides, with the promotional side and the performing side.
Yeah.
Is there things from the promotional side that you think people need to be more aware of?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
I learned it the hard way. So, you do a gig as a comedian and you think, it would be great if I didn't have bringers. And yes, it would be, especially when you pass 40 and you live in Berkshire, which is where I live, and it's like 1.5 hours anywhere and it's expensive. And however, some venues, it's really difficult to promote things. So if there are no bringers, there'll be no one to watch you. So I completely understand. Like, I love when I say no bringers, and I always try to promote it, but at the same time I do understand that it's, I feel bad whenever I don't have a bringer, but it's again, I think people in 20s, when you are in your 20s, unless you're autistic, so it wasn't my case in my 20s, but hey, let's just have this myth of me like, oh yeah, everybody loved me in my 20s, I was so popular, oh my God, it was like the house was full. But past certain age, people have kids, they live probably outside London because they can't afford buying anything in London. It's just difficult. So when you organize a show, you realize that it's really difficult, and you can have a great show in a great location, and people have things to do and they will just not come. So we started doing this thing where we have some bringer slots, some non-bringer slots, and if you depending on that, we were experimenting with it. So if you have one bringer, it's maybe 7 minutes. If you have two, it's a bit longer slot, to kind of have people appreciate or try to help, especially if they say, yeah, no problem, I have many friends, right? And I do realize that it's difficult, and I feel bad every time they say no bringer and I don't bring a bringer, because again, I think, well, you said no bringer, so I just think what I'm trying to say in a very chaotic way, I'm really sorry, is that, it gives you an idea of how it works from the other side. For example, there were comedians who we did say, I think, bring a stayer, and there were people who would literally just show up 5 minutes before their set, do their set, and just go, go home.
Yeah.
And I found it like, there are other comedians who are here, and I think it's a bit disrespectful, at least just to stay, unless if you have something really important or a baby at home, or so I didn't realize that you have to kind of say it to have people stay, because for me, I would always at least stay and give people your time, and just being there definitely helped me to kind of see how it works from the other side. And also now doing foot putter in a lovely town of Faversham, which is a tiny beautiful cute little market town in Kent. People don't owe you anything. People don't owe you to come to see your show or your comedy. They have other things. They've got 20 different channels, Prime, Netflix, God knows what. I should maybe name them. The entertainment channels available online at a subscription fee. The fact that you're on doesn't mean that people will come, and it's a completely different story to attract people to a venue. And I think it's a good approach to have, to know people do not owe you anything really, but also to appreciate good promoters. There are people who are wonderful at it. There are some venues, there's Gig Bonkers, I think you did it in Bromley. Jenny does such an amazing job. Jenny, who runs I think Bonkers Comedy in Bromley.
I haven't done that one yet.
It's
no.
amazing, and it's just so well promoted, and she's local and she knows everyone. It's a charity gig. Oh, it's packed. And there are snacks for comedians, and it's just a dream for a comedian. So and then you appreciate people who really do it well. And I'm only learning. I'm not I'm not saying I'm the best promoter. I'm not. And so as comedians who did Square go, well, when I think we had one show where it was a quarterfinal of Euros upstairs. That was a tricky one.
I bet.
Yeah, and I think we had about 70% of the venue, and it was our first one that was not full, and I felt so bad. But then the venue owner said, "Well, there's a game upstairs."
Yeah.
So luckily, it was a really boring game. France, someone, it was 0-0. So luckily for us, it was just should have gone to comedy. That's all I'm saying.
But if you still had a fairly full room, then you've done well. Because with those kind of distractions, people are easily distracted, aren't they?
Yeah.
There's going to be times where people are just sat there watching comedy or whatever, and they've got no obligation to stay. So they
exactly
get up and walk away, and especially if there's something else going on in another room in the same venue.
Exactly. And you kind of, and I, to anyone who performed at so Square Go Comedy, there are 3 different venues, I think now, and I sort of semi-run help with the Marylebone one. Anyone who did it wasn't always smooth sailing, and I apologize to any comedian if it was delayed, or you're learning as you go along, and then you appreciate really good promoters who do it so well. And then after every show I thought, oh gosh, it could have done better, it could have gone better. And exactly just like you say, we had so our last one was this Saturday, but I was in Faversham. The one before, it was delayed because of me. I packed everything, checked 3 times, and then got to the venue, which is 1.5 hours from Berkshire, and opened my bag, really early, and realized my microphone is not there. And I thought, oh my God. So my poor boyfriend got on Elizabeth line, boom, dropped the mic in quite literally.
Yeah.
But it was delayed because of it. But we had a gentleman, I think he was from Australia, and he was just in a pub, and I said, come and do stand-up. We're doing stand-up comedy. He came, and then he wasn't there after the break, probably because he was just late. And so it was my fault, the whole microphone issue. That was my fault. I shouldn't probably say it on the podcast. Can you just cut it? Because that's just me. I should be like, I'm amazing, Marc. I'm so fucking amazing. Like, honestly, I'll be so famous. When I do my Oscar speech, you can play this clip. But anyway, coming back to the story. And then so he went home with his friend, and you think, oh, they hated the show, because that's what you assume as a comedian. If you're one of those 50-50 people mentioned at the start, you think you were shit. And actually he sent me a message saying it was great, thank you so much. So basically, maybe they just had to go home because it was late, or they had plans, or they had to get up early. But in your head, you think, oh, no one wants to stay. It's shit, right? And again, I'm still learning this whole hosting, and I'm still learning. So when you do a show which is run superbly, you really appreciate great promoters. And I think some comedians, it would help them to just see it from the other side, and they would kind of see how it goes and appreciate also timings. If they say you've got 7 minutes, do not go on for 12 minutes. Because there is another comedian after you. So if I overrun once, I'm really sorry, because I must have done it myself. So again, it's not like I'm holy Maja and I do everything right. No, but I think doing it from both sides, you kind of see how you then appreciate things and maybe try to help with running things. Yeah.
It has to be a partnership between the promoters and the comedians. Everyone, in effect, is putting on the show.
Exactly. They have never maybe run a show, so they kind of come in. There's like boom, boom. That they do good jokes. They're really good comedians. But there's also this other side where if you're late or if you don't show. I had one comedian. I'm going to say they were on the bill for about a week on the post and everything.
Yeah.
We have a show at 7:30 p.m. At 5, I get a text. Hi, Maja. I think I just woke up. I think I'm in late, and I don't think I can make it. I completely forgot. SOS.
Yeah, that's not good. That's not good.
And if they were really, really hangover, fine. But obviously, I filled it really quickly. So there are places where you can fill it, but maybe just know how it works. That things happen. So I also don't want to punish people. Oh, you cancelled. Some comedians, especially female, are so scared. I had people saying, "I'm feeling really sick," or "I'm not well today. I'm so sorry," and they think that you will be punished, or I'll just tell everyone that you cancelled, and I'll name and shame you. And some promoters do that. They're like, how dare you can't? Things happen. I know this myself. You can have a bad day, or you're not well, or mentally unwell. Maybe meaning maybe just having a really bad day. You just don't want to be on stage. that's fine. And I think we should understand it as promoters. We should say, that's fine. Things happen because people are human and they can have, you don't know what happens in their life. You don't know what's going on in their lives. You have no idea. You just see them, like you said, for 5 minutes on stage. They could be going through a breakup. They could be, especially men, as you know, hide this so well. You don't know what's going on in their head. So, and I think it's just last thing I'm going to say, also for promoters, and I would say especially male promoters, because there's this opinion that women cancel more. I don't think they do, but people are human. People have, this was very difficult for me to understand because of as autistic, because obviously I'm not human, but but people have things that they will not tell you that are going on, and so maybe, you know, give them this grace. If they're just being twats and they're like, oh yeah, I just woke up, they're being twats. But
I've had to cancel gigs recently because you might be able to tell from my voice it sounds a bit dodgy. It's a bit croaky, and I hated doing it. I had a gig on Monday and a gig on Sunday, and it's now Wednesday.
Yeah.
And it got to the weekend, and I'd been ill for like 3 days, and I thought I'm just still not feeling it.
Yeah.
So my plan was that I don't want to let these people down, but I can't do it because I've basically got flu. So it was like, right, on Saturday morning, so if you don't feel any better, so I messaged the guy that was running Sunday night and said, look, I'm feeling rough. I don't want to leave it till tomorrow and then cancel. So if you can get somebody to replace me, go ahead and do it. If I am well enough, then I'll come along and support the night anyway. But it's unlikely I will. And then the same for the Monday one. I did it. I sent the guy a message on Saturday and said, look, I'm really sorry to do this because it's a competition as well. I was like, I'm just out. I can't do it. If traveling into London ill and being in a room full of people ill is not good for anybody.
Exactly. You know, one thing you see when you ask me, one thing I would like to change. So I think, and I don't know whether you had other female comedians saying this, but I've had this so many times that, apparently female comedians cancel more. And I've had MCs or promoters sort of shaming people for cancelling. And there's one thing, you know, being flaky, and London is the capital of flakiness, right? Oh yeah, I can't, you know, we all know this. And I learned this the hard way when I was a songwriter, and everybody said, oh my God, you write songs, it's amazing, I'm going to come to your gig. No one will come to your gig. No one's going to come to your gig. That's it. Okay. And this is 10 years ago. I was a songwriter. Everybody said, oh my God, your songs are so amazing. I love it. I'm going to come. No one comes. Literally. London is the capital of flakiness. Really tough for an autistic, because you think, well, they said they would come. You don't compute. It's like, you know. However, I think maybe especially for women, I don't know whether you would have to statistically check whether other female comedians have told you this. Especially as women, we are so scared of saying, so then we are shamed on stage or say, we'll never book her again. Oh, you know, this flaky, stupid woman, she's not even funny. Ha, 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 ha. And I think both for men, women, non-binary, there should be this kind of, as a promoter, and experienced promoters do it really well. And I'm not, you know, I'm only learning, where you give people grace, because things do happen.
If somebody does drop out of your night, don't look at it as that you've got 5 minutes of an empty space to avoid. Just say to a few people, you've got an extra minute each.
Yeah, exactly.
And they'll appreciate it.
Exactly.
And the audience have no clue. And the night just runs a little bit, you know, rather than, oh, so-and-so didn't show up. You've got people there that are gagging for more stage time.
Yeah, exactly.
Just give them that stage time divided up and it'll work. Yeah. Okay. Some joke writing. Do you have a joke writing process?
No, I'm just learning this, and I will. Actually, right now, what I talked about earlier on, these sort of two routes you can take. For me, that I will just start exploring this sort of joke. So I will just think, they say, write what you know. I experimented with it, and I tried something about Poland, and it was such a certain things were such a flop. And someone said, you don't have to write about what you know. You can just, you don't have to talk about yourself. So I'm still learning, I would say. I've only just started reading Maja Bloom's book. Obviously, we share a name. Obviously, it's my stage name. But Adam, just saying hello there, family. Okay, if you do any private one-to-one.
Good podcast.
So I am just learning. And so I have this joke that I did in Footputter where I say, comedians testing new material. They say a joke and it either lands or it doesn't. So being autistic is like you test things on humans and you're like, I talked about cars. Yeah, James likes this, tick, and it's true. and all autistic friends are like, yeah, that's what we do all my life. So I think for me, it's the same. You sort of like test it, and there are human things that I so don't get, and everybody loves them. And I'm just, why? It just makes no sense. But then I have to remind myself that I am in the apparently 2% of the population or more. So I'm still testing and learning. Because there are some things that are just I'm not judging them as bad. I just completely do not get them. I just do not understand why this thing exists. Ibiza is one of those. Or just capital of fun. Apparently, to me, the epitome of hell.
Yeah.
Not the island, I think it's beautiful, but just the idea of partying and drinking and loud music for 24 hours and non-stop is hellish to me, but apparently it's fun. So just an idea. Nothing against Ibiza and or because I'm British, Ibiza. You see, I'm British. I'm definitely British. I say Ibiza. So 100% British. So I would say I'm learning, experimenting and exploring and then testing it, because some things are super funny to me and damn, they're just not funny to people, and I still like them. I don't know, I hope every comedian has a joke that I just find it so funny, and someone told me try a joke 3 times and if it doesn't work, just don't do it. But there's one joke that I just keep doing because I just love it so much, and I don't get that no one laughs. You're just like, it's funny to me.
Yeah, I've got one of those jokes at the moment where I try to go by the probably 5 times. I give it 5 goes, but I tend to, for some reason in my head, it's like 5 in a row. So it's never bad 5 in a row. It's like, oh, first time, great, winner. That's the one. Then the next 2, it's like nothing. You're like, okay, try it again, nothing. Try it again, got something. You're like, okay, we're back on schedule, and then you kind of understand that actually, the audience is different for every single show.
Well, exactly. But also, I think, yesterday I saw this comedian. I do not remember his name, unfortunately. It was proper kind of absurd, sort of crazy comedy. But I loved it. And I think a lot of people who maybe, no disrespect, watch, let's say, Michael McIntyre would say this is completely unfunny. And I would say this was genius. So if that person decides not to do these jokes because certain audience tells him that's not funny, they wouldn't exist, these jokes. So I think if you like it, maybe that's what makes you you, because sense of humor is so personal. And I actually love comedians who are sort of crazy that way. One of my favorite comedians of all time is James Acaster. And I love that he just does things that are so crazy sometimes, but he seems to believe in it. He would probably say, no, I'm not confident. I should get him on the podcast. And he seems to just believe in it, that you start laughing because it's so crazy. So if he decided, I'd love to ask him. I'd love to ask James. I'd love to date him, but I have a boyfriend. But don't tell my boyfriend this. No, I love my boyfriend very much. But my point is that if you have a joke that you find really funny, sometimes it is, some audiences will like it, some will not. And I'm not saying you should always do the joke that never works, of course, right? But it's like it's like a question mark, because maybe it's just a different audience. So I don't know.
It's an odd one, because sometimes when you just go, I think, I don't know, did I change something? Did I say it in a different way and it made it more powerful and it worked? Try it again. And you're like, no, it didn't. And it's understanding that not everything will land, but if everything that's there has a purpose that leads to somewhere else, you can leave that bit in. If you can't find a way to make that better, but there's a payoff 30 seconds later that relates to that.
Yeah, exactly.
Leave it in. Don't beat yourself up about the fact that this one didn't quite work exactly. But if you didn't have that, would your end punch be as good?
Exactly. I mean, I'm still learning this. So I think for me, it's all exploring stage. At this stage, it's all exploring and learning. You know yourself, you can have exactly the same joke with literally exactly the same words. And one room is wow, and the other room, everybody's like. And I've also learned, I remember I did one show and I thought, oh my God, what a flop. And then 2 ladies came up to me afterwards, said, oh my God, that was really funny. We loved what you did. So, and I have this myself. You can hear a sort of mediocre joke and everybody's ha, 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 because they're slightly tipsy, ha, ha. You forget the joke like 2 minutes later. Then you have a comedian who does a very original joke. Maybe not many people laugh, but you remember that joke. You remember that 10 years later. You remember that joke. But the comedian in that moment might feel, oh, no one likes my jokes. A lovely lady, I did a workshop with a lovely lady, and her name escapes me. I'm really sorry. I tend to be really bad with names. And she said, audience reactions, have a diary of audience reactions. I've only just started it. It doesn't have to be ha, ha, ha. It could be a smile or a warm expression. And it's also positive. It doesn't mean that everything is bad. But we have this unfortunately, we think if it's not ha 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 ha, then we're failing. And then you leave stage thinking, oh my God, I failed so badly. And again, it's all about the things we tell ourselves and the things that are really true. And it's that there's kind of a balance, but it's an odd one. I'm still learning and writing new jokes as I go along, and I am now I cannot even speak English. I am now at this point where I will sort of explore footer, which is like a story thing, and then just jokes. But to answer your original question about joke writing, I think I'm still learning. And yeah, it's an odd one. I still think that people who have maybe a weird or crazy sense of humor, they should keep the jokes that maybe do not land everywhere, because there's a place for these jokes, and that makes the world, a bit more diverse and more fun and more crazy. That some people invent stories that are just so bonkers.
I had an incident. I says an incident makes it sound serious. It wasn't. I told 2 slightly darker jokes, shall we say, on stage, and in the room, the room didn't really go for it.
Mm-hmm.
They went for a few other bits, but they didn't go for these 2 particular jokes. And these are 2 jokes I've been trying to work out for a while. And I sat down after my set, and a comedian came up to me. She said to me, I really loved those 2 jokes. She said, they will work really well in this room. She gave me like a couple of other clubs that she's played in, and said they will work really well there.
Yeah.
She said, I thought the angle that you came at them was really good, and I think that they were good. They were dark.
Yeah.
They weren't offensive as such. This room just wasn't the right one, but those jokes are worth pursuing.
Exactly. I mean, there are rooms where I'm sure it has happened to you. You walk in and you think, that is not going to be my room. And then you walk in, you're like, that is my room. That is my room. You just know that people will get certain jokes. And it's fine. It's fine that some people like, I don't know, Friends, and some people like This Country, right? People have different tastes, and it's fine. That's what if someone wise said, if we all liked the same thing, it would be a really boring world. So I love that people like beaches, because there's not many of us in the mountains, and so there's more space for me. So please all stay on the beaches. Okay, it's great. I love that you love the sea. It's fantastic, because mountains are empty. So keep it that way.
So what are your ambitions then on the comedy circuit going forward? What do you want to achieve?
Okay, kind of like a dream thing would be a comedy TV series. I'd love to be in something really funny, something that makes people feel better. So I loved This Country. I love that kind of humor. I would love that. Equally, like I said earlier, if there's any casting directors, I am a very good dramatic actor as well. And it's funny, I have to mention it, or I think I have to mention it, because there are so many actors. When I do purely sort of acting events, and people say, well, I only do drama, and most actors, I've just done a workshop, and I asked, there were I think about 12 of us, and I said, which one of you prefers comedy? And I was the only one who raised my hand.
Really?
Most actors are so scared of comedy. So you can, there are famous actors who just never do comedy. If you check, really, there are some really fantastic actors who just do not touch comedy, because they think, I'll just be bad at it. So I love both. It's different, but I guess now in my life, I would love to do a really funny TV series. Anyone who does anything funny and wants it to be filmed, please contact me. I'm in a lucky position where I can choose projects, sort of, so it doesn't have to always be paid a lot of money. It's funny because I obviously was in a really big Hollywood franchise, and then people think that you have to offer me £7,000 per day.
Yes.
And yes, you should. Please do. But I mean, it's great that I can kind of afford to say yes to things that I just find really good. And there's a project, and they are waiting for my self-tape. And I'm so sorry, it was meant to be delivered on Sunday, and I will deliver it today. But there's a kind of a small comedy project I will probably film, and it's just really funny and good, and I'd love to do more comedy work. So anyone, and I mean it, any comedian who's listening to it and just thinks that I could be part of that, or do a comedy scene, because there are comedians who are also actors, contact me. I speak 5 languages. You need someone with a foreign accent, someone speaking foreign languages, or riding a horse at the same time and playing the piano. I'm in a lucky position where, as an actor, you can a lot of actors, majority, actually, not a lot, majority of actors have a day job. Majority of performers, sorry, it should be normalized. People have this idea that all actors are like top 5 guys in Friends, and you had 1,300 actors in Friends, and when the actors strike happened, people realized, oh my god, and we all have to pay our bills. However, I have a bit of a freedom there because I'm a freelancer, and I also do other things. I teach and translate, so I would love to do something just funny on screen. So comedy TV series would be great. I'd love to succeed in stand-up comedy, in a sense that I'd love to. I do not need to be the most popular comedian there. I do not need to be, I'm sorry, Michael, to be the Michael McIntyre of I don't think I'll ever be. I am a bit of a weird one and a different one, and I'm trying to embrace it, but I'd love to be known for something, and I've only just started this journey. But and like I said, I am at this kind of crossroad a little bit. But I'd love to be appreciated for what I'm trying to put out there, if that makes sense. So if I do take Foot Putter to Edinburgh, I would love people to say, "Oh, that's a bit of a weird one. It's a show about being always a permanent outsider and sort of watching the world and not belonging. But it's interesting for what it is. That would be really good. Also to my self-esteem." Yes, to be honest, anything kind of creative when you can work as especially film actors, we are so used to. I mean, maybe your listeners or comedians do not know that, because a lot of them, yes, they do have jobs and then they do stand up. But I'm an actor, and as an actor, you're so used to just rehearsing for work but never working, because you do 20 self tapes and then you get one job. And it's just great to work, really. It's just great to be surrounded by other creatives. So that's why when I say a comedy TV series, because I think it would be so great to kind of do something together. I'm writing a script at the moment, thinking of writing a script. And it's just great to kind of combine your talents and see, oh, this person does this great. And then you create something fantastic. So that would be probably fantastic if I do Edinburgh and then someone sees me and someone says, do you know, I have a play or I'm doing this. That would be I think probably best, where my weirdness is sort of appreciated, because I had to learn, that I am not everyone's cup of tea, and I'm weird, and I've tried, and I'm probably still trying to be everyone's cup of tea, and it just always fails. And then I think I have to, or I'm trying now to learn to embrace the fact that I'm just so permanently weird and I never belong. And it's not easy, but it would be great if that could be used somehow, if that makes sense. All my weird talents of singing and acting and that would be
horseback
fantastic.
riding.
Horse riding, yes, of course, yes, with a horse, To be fair, when I said it, I literally thought my boyfriend's sister lives near Edinburgh, and she's a horse physiotherapist, so she probably knows a horse owner. It's happening, guys. Edinburgh horse show.
That would be a grand entrance.
Oh my god, imagine just me.
That's a really nice segue to the next question.
Okay.
So if you're if things do go really well and you end up with a big stage show as a stand-up comedian, and it's going out for TV, and the producers will ask you, what music do you want to walk onto the stage to?
I thought about this question. I have no idea, because I am so rubbish at names. And to illustrate that, when I had a jazz show in India, I performed in India for about 3 months in this top Indian restaurant in Delhi, and people would ask me, "Oh, could you do Norwegian Wood?" I was like, "What is Norwegian Wood?" And "Oh, it's a bit." And then I would listen to the song, and of course I know this. I didn't know it was called Norwegian Wood. Okay, so that's my point. So there is a great song by Lizzo, and I know Lizzo is now kind of maybe in well, I don't know. There was a story about Lizzo, the performer, right? So I'm not sure that I should mention this, but I love her song "Special," and it says, and the video is really nice. It's basically, I think it says, if nobody told you today you're special, you're special. So if you've never believed that you're special. So I'm trying to play this song to myself, because it's really sad when you say, if you have this big stage, and part of me just doesn't believe that could happen, because I'm so used to just always sticking out, just being this permanent 2%, and it hurts, because we all even when you're autistic and you just like being alone, as a human being, evolution made us want to belong. That is a defense mechanism. We have to be in groups because we wouldn't survive, right? Someone once told me, even your body, you just your brain, whether even if you like being alone, your brain wants to be surrounded by other people. It's scientifically proven that you like being liked, basically, right?
Yeah.
You might say it's pathetic, but we just our bodies are physically prepared for it, and they like it. So it would be nice if that could be appreciated. But the song, probably that one, So Special, because the other two songs that are some of my favorite songs, they're not particularly happy and show they're sort of sad. They're my survival songs that I listen to when I'm not okay. Joni Mitchell is a good one. I love her to bits, and I'd love to see her live. So Joni Mitchell probably. Do you know what I always say this? I should probably incorporate it in my stand-up, but I always say if I'm really, really famous, so my stage name is, as you know, Maja Bloom, but my full name, my mum only knows this, is Maria Katarzyna Joanna Franciszka Szymczyk. So this is Mary Catherine Joanna Francesca Szymczyk. So it's my first name, second name, and my confirmation name.
Right.
And I took a double confirmation name, and the priest was like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, because I want 4 saints, okay? So I want Francisca d'Assisi because I love animals. I want Joan of Arc because she was a kick-ass. And I gave him all the arguments, and the priest couldn't be like, no. So I had a double. Everybody had like Joan or Peter, and I was like, Joan Francesca, okay? And also she was a saint. She set up a convent in 15th century. So shut up, okay? Joan Francesca. It's a true story. That's what I said to the priest. So I always say this is a joke, but if I when I'm super famous, let's just use first conditional. My students, I do know conditionals. First conditional to make it more likely, because I do believe that it's going to happen. When I'm really famous, on chairs they write the name.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't say Maja Bloom, it would say Maria Katarzyna Joanna Franciszka Szymczyk. And I will not come out on set unless the director says, "Can we please have, ladies and gentlemen, Maria Katarzyna Joanna Franciszka Szymczyk?" And if there's one consonant missing, I'm not coming out on that set. I'll be like,
I'm not even going anywhere near that.
Can we please have Maria Katarzyna Joanna Franciszka Szymczyk? Can we please? And until he really, okay, I'm like, yeah. So that's going to be on my chair. So live at the Apollo, on the screen is going to be Maria Katarzyna Joanna Franciszka Szymczyk. And then it's going to be my boyfriend's surname. It's not double-barreled, but I still love him. But So
you just imagine like you're walking up to the Apollo itself, and you see the board.
Maria Katarzyna Joanna Franciszka Szymczyk. Yeah.
Somebody's had a good day with Scrabble.
Yeah. Yeah. So that would be like just the speaker going, Maria Katarzyna Joanna Franciszka Szymczyk, Maria Katarzyna Joanna Franciszka Szymczyk, Maria Katarzyna Joanna Franciszka Szymczyk. I'll ask like Stormzy to write about my Maria Katarzyna Joanna Franciszka Szymczyk. But like, can you just write a little clip, and that would be
Because I've always had this thing. I've got this idea in my head about names as part of a set, and because I honestly believe I probably got the shortest name outside of Asia. If you take the number of letters in my first name and the number of letters in my surname, and then even if you add the number of letters in my middle name, I've got 4 at the front, 3 at the back, and 3 in the middle. So I've only got 10 letters in my entire name. I doubt there is anybody that can match that. I know there's a few that can match the total number for the first and the last combined.
Okay.
But I don't know if there's many that can match the middle as well.
Yeah. You should have met me when I was doing my confirmation and be like, Marc, let me give you, okay, Joan Francesca, okay? She was a saint, so I remember having to justify it to the priest, because you had to justify what saint you chose for your confirmation. So I had to justify Joan Francesca, a double name. And I just, he just shut up. He was a very tolerant priest, that one, actually, but I did explain to him why I'm taking a Joan Francesca. So
fair enough. As we're kind of coming to the end, and you've seen a few of these episodes before, you may know what's coming up.
I'm scared.
It's the little thing that I've called the Comedian's Challenge, where I set every comedian a challenge to read a joke from this joke book called The Little Book of Shit Jokes by Sid Finch. The comedians get to pick the joke they tell on stage, film it, tag us in it, etc.
Okay.
But they don't pick it by words, they pick it by page number. So I don't know what joke they're going to get, and they don't know what joke they're going to get.
Okay.
And this is an interesting little experiment to see how, if somebody then just goes up and tells the joke, or if they incorporate it into a set of some kind, or do whatever with it, or just never bother. There's a few.
What do you mean never bother? Well, people were just like, bye, Marc. Okay, sorry, I have to go. The cat is meowing. Bye, Marc.
No, I mean telling the joke on stage. Richard Parr still owes me this joke.
Okay. So the idea is to incorporate it somehow, or
however you want. Entirely up to you.
Okay.
So if you want to take up the challenge, if you give me a number between 5 and 95.
Ooh, 26, the day when I met my boyfriend. Unless someone did it. If someone did it, do you still give them the joke? Or
you have to go again, unfortunately.
Okay, yeah. 26.
So no, we need another number.
So 26th of July, 30.
30. Okay. Would you like joke number 1 or joke number 2?
2.
The joke I want you to tell on stage is, I invented a speed dating business for the final chapters of books, but gave it up after a month. I couldn't make the ends meet.
Okay. I'll have to think about it. Can it be a longer set when I talk about relationships and dating?
You do it however you want.
Okay. Could you, I need to write it down.
I will send you a picture of it.
Okay, yes, because I need to think about, does it have to be word for word, or can you?
No, so we're talking about bookends. So, you invented a speed dating business for the final chapters of books, but gave it up after months. I couldn't make ends meet.
Okay, yeah, I can just keep that, yeah.
You can do something with that.
Okay, with the ends, I'm thinking of the ends sort of thingy. Yeah, okay, because I'm thinking, again, in my head, it doesn't have to be that way, but in my head, I'm thinking how to add it to the relationship bit. Okay, that's interesting. Who wrote the book? I don't know.
It's Sid Finch. When I first started comedy, my wife bought me this joke as a joke Christmas present. And I know you performed there for one night only in Hitchin.
Lovely. Such a nice night, by the way. Thanks. You are one of those, I should have said it, you are one of those nights that were just properly run and nice and sort of promoted well and friendly, and people were friendly. So it was one of those nights that, it's one of my best memories ever. I'm not saying this just because I'm on the podcast, because I'm autistic. So it would be, I mean, I will learn lying at some point, but but it was genuinely a really good night. So
no, but with this book is I did a gig for them before the one you were on last year, and this was my first ever 10-minute set.
Oh wow.
And I wasn't sure if I had
10
minutes of material, so I had this book in my back pocket with the idea that if I had time left, I'd get the audience members to give me a page number, and I would try to do it like I'm finishing every set differently, because I don't know what the last joke is.
That's really cool, actually. That's really creative.
What I did was I did the joke. I shouted out, and as everybody would expect, everybody shouted out the number 69 because they're not at all predictable. So I then told the joke, but I then said to Dean, the guy that runs For One Night Only, the next time we gig together, I want you to do that joke.
So that's how it started. Okay.
And that's how
he's probably very
rolling.
good at it, because he's a master of one-liners. He's just, I love people when people, I so admire comedians who do that. It's just, I mean, Dean, anyone, I hope they know how amazing they are. Honestly, I hope they know. And I also hope that someone says this about me, because when I see people like this, no, I actually mean it. It's just so unbelievably amazing. And I remember laughing so much at Dean's jokes and thinking, oh my God, why are you so good? Why are you such a genius? I love that. I love people who do that kind of jokes. I just find it so inspiring and so.
Yes, I completely agree. I'd love to do that, but it's not my persona. It's that thing, isn't it, where you admire what other people do so much, but forget about what you do.
I mean, like I said, I hope so. I hope so that that's because I just find this kind of joke writing, people who do that, and I remember laughing so hard at Dean's jokes that night. For me, it's just like, I don't need to do comedy now. Just thank you. I'm just gonna watch you now, and that's it. And thank you. Okay. So to me, it's just wow. That is, I have so much respect for people who do that, who just find these tiny connections.
So I'm going to say thank you for your time today, because that's been an absolutely wonderful chat.
I'm sorry, I probably chatted too much. I'm so sorry.
No, not at all. But one thing I do want to ask, and I will put these bits in the description, is how can people find you?
So Planet Maja, and first of all, Maja, I know people can see it on the screen, but they're probably not looking. I know I have the Eastern European / Scandinavian spelling, so it's Maja. So it's Planet Maja, because yes, I'm from a different planet, which is what I heard all my life in high school. So Planet Maja on Instagram, Planet_Maja on Twitter. Planet Maja is my website that I have to update, but that is technically my website. So Planet Maja everywhere. And maybe I should change the spelling of that name, but I don't know. I used to spell it with a Y. People would say Maja. Yes. And then on Instagram, there is I think, tiny URL, I think, or a link with all the, my spotlight reel. So any actor sort of work, most people in the UK use Spotlight. So that would be Spotlight. There's a Spotlight link. So these two, probably the best. There is an email if anyone has a project that they want me to work on. I genuinely mean it. If there's anything funny, anything I could be in that, please let me know. I would love to do more fun, crazy fun projects, mockumentary style especially. So just email me and contact me, and I'd love to talk about it and do it.
Excellent. Well, you can find us on Instagram at Open Mic Comedy Pod. We have a website, openmiccomedypod.com. Whichever platform you're listening to this on, please give it a nice little 5-star review, and a rating would be really good, and a like and a follow. So lastly, I'd just like to say thank you very much, Maja, for your time today.
Thank you, honestly, for inviting me. And it was probably incredibly chaotic. And I will tell myself off for the next about 3.5 days for being incredibly chaotic. So I'm really sorry. And thank you for inviting me. I think it's amazing. And what you do. And so I feel really, really honored. And thank you.
Thank you. And for everybody else, I will speak to you all again very, very soon.